Hello everyone. I'm Sofia C. Atienza, and welcome to today's chemistry lecture. This is our last lecture for the free college entrance examination review program of Smile Taytay Training Institute. In this session, we'll focus on one of the most essential skills that you need for your entrance exams, and that is balancing chemical equations. So, balancing equations in general ensures that the law of conservation of mass is observed. So, ibig sabihin nun na yung number ng atoms ng bawat element sa equation, it should be the same on both sides of the reaction na i-observe natin. And later, we will apply yung skill na to different types of equations, specifically chemical reactions like synthesis reaction and combustion. So let's begin. Let's first practice this skill with a sample question. So here we have a fluorine gas na magre-react with sodium chloride. So yung reaction na to ng dalawang compound na ito, magpo-produce sila ng sodium fluoride. So kung hindi tayo familiar sa sodium fluoride, ito yung primary ingredient na makikita natin sa toothpaste. Isa pang product ng reaction ay chlorine gas. So how would you balance this chemical reaction or this equation? So first na step na gagawin natin is to identify the atoms na present sa equation. So on the left side, we have sodium and of course chlorine, and we also have fluorine. On the right side, we also have sodium, chlorine, and fluorine. Now, our goal is to make sure that the number of each atom in both sides matches or equally the same. So, ano yung mga parts ng equation na kailangan nating matandaan or ma-identify? So, una, meron tayong tinatawag na subscripts. So, ito yon, yung mga maliliit na number. Subscripts are part of the chemical formula and they tell us how many atoms are in one molecule. So, for example, here, it means na merong dalawang fluorine atoms sa isang molecule. Okay, again, subscripts tell us how many atoms are in one molecule. Now, we have coefficients. So dito sa sample question na to, we are asked to identify the set of ordered coefficients to balance this chemical equation. So chemical or coefficients are numbers that we place in front of the formulas to indicate how many molecules are involved. Okay, so for example, here sa question na to, ang hinihingi sa atin ay coefficients. Ilang coefficients yung kailangan para mabalance natin yung reaction na to, or yun yung mag-identify sa bilang ng mga molecules na involved sa chemical reaction na to. So, sa kaliwa natin, meron tayong fluorine. It appears as F2, meaning 2 atoms. On the right, we have fluorine, but fluorine is in sodium fluoride. So, ibig sabihin, there's only one atom per formula unit. Okay? So, para mabalance natin yung equation na to, ano yung kailangan natin na gawin? Let's try to place, ito. Hindi gumagana yung pen. Ayan. So, meron tayong dalawang atom ng fluorine. Dito, isa lang. Kasi wala naman siyang subscript na nag-indicate na dalawa siya. So, ibig sabihin, para mabalance natin or para maging dalawa din yung atom sa right side, we place 2 here. Okay? So, ngayon, meron ka ng dalawa kasi ita-times mo yung 2 na yan dito sa molecule na to. Isang buo yung molecule. So, ibig sabihin, meron ka ng dalawang sodium at yung fluorine mo, magiging dalawa na siya. So, instead of one, dalawa na siya. So, dalawa dito yung fluorine, dalawa din yung fluorine dito. So, balance na yung fluorine mo. Next, we try to balance si sodium. So, since nalagyan na natin ng 2 na coefficient, yung molecule na to, meaning si sodium, dalawa na yung atom niya. Dito sa kabila, kay NaCl, isa pa lang siya. So, para ma-balance din or para maging equal yung number ni sodium, we will put 2 here. So, ngayon, meron ka ng dalawang sodium. And since nasa iisang unit sila, isang formula lang sila, magiging dalawa din yung kay chlorine. So, ayan siya. Tignan natin kung ilan si chlorine dito sa right side. So, si chlorine, meron siyang subscript na 2. So, meaning, meron siyang dalawang atoms ng chlorine. So, tignan natin kung na-balance na natin yung reaction. So, meron tayong dalawang sodium sa left. Dalawa din yung sodium sa right. Dalawa yung atom ng fluorine sa left. Dalawa din yung atom ng fluorine sa right. Dalawa yung Cl or yung chlorine, and then dalawa din dito. We'll just put one here as a placeholder. Pero kapag isa lang naman yung molecule, isang unit lang naman ng molecule yung nasa equation, hindi na siya sinusulat as one kasi parang understandable na yung presence niya. Kaya nga siya nakalagay dyan, di ba? So, ibig sabihin, there's at least one of them. We'll just place one here kasi ang tinatanong dito ay set of ordered coefficients. Alam nga naman na ilagay natin na 2020. So, anyway, nabalance na natin yung reaction and everything balances perfectly. So, the correct set of coefficients is 2121, which corresponds to letter A. So, letter A is the correct answer. Sa mga ganitong klase ng question sa mga exams, students often gets confused with subscripts and coefficients. So, you remember na lang na you cannot change yung subscript. Okay? You cannot change subscripts because that changes the identity of the compound. Okay? Ang pwede lang natin na mabago or pwede lang natin ma-identify is yung mga coefficients. Yung mga nilalagay na number before the unit or the formula. Kasi for example, itong si NaCl siya, sodium chloride. Pero kapag ginawa mo yan na let's say ganito, that's a different compound. Iba na yung compound na tinitignan mo. So, only coefficients, ayan, can be adjusted to balance equations. Let's try to answer another question. Let's try to practice a hydrolysis reaction. This time we have diborane reacting with water to produce boric acid. So si boric acid ay isang type or isang chemical na kasali or ingredient ng insecticides. Product din ng reaction ay hydrogen gas. So, ito example na to, it's a great practice question because it shows na yung mga hydrogen atoms, it can shift between reactants and products. So, ito yung side na to, yung mga reactants, yung mga ingredients na kailangan natin to complete the chemical reaction. Then we have here the products. Of course, from the word itself, products. Ito yung makukuha natin kapag nangyari yung chemical reaction na nandito. So, how would you balance this reaction? We have two boron atoms here in diborane. So, isulat natin, boron is 2. Dito, sa right natin, yung boric acid, it only has one boron atom per molecule. So, ito lang siya. So, since isa lang siya, dagdagan natin para mabalance. Kasi ito, dalawa siya eh. So, dito, lagyan din natin ng coefficient na 2. So, since nilagyan natin ng dalawang coefficient dito, ngayon, pati yung element na si hydrogen at si oxygen, masasali sila dun sa pagdagdag natin ng coefficient. So, meron ka ng dalawang boron atom. Now, let's check with oxygen. On the right, dito pala yung right. On the right, we have, ayun nga, two boric acid molecules. So, it means, ilan yung oxygen natin? Meron kang tatlong atom sa isang molecule. E dalawa yung molecule natin. So, 3 times 2 is 6. And on the left, we only have oxygen from the water. So, para mabalance or para mag-equal sila, we also need 6. 'Di ba? Kasi isa lang siya. So, ilalagay natin dito ay 6. Ayan. So, on the left, we have um 6 hydrogens from diborane. Sulat natin siya dito. 6. Tapos, dalawang hydrogen, kada isang molecule ng water. Meron kang 6 na molecule ng water. So, 6 times 2 is 12. So, on the left side of the equation, we have 6 plus 12. So, 18 siya. So, meron kang 18 na hydrogen atoms. On the right, you have two atoms here ng hydrogen gas. Then, meron kang tatlong hydrogen bawat isang molecule ng boric acid. So, since tatlo siya, times 2 natin. So, meron kang 4. So, meron kang 6 na hydrogen atoms. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan mo na 12 pa 12 pa na hydrogen para mabalance yung hydrogen dito sa right, dito sa left. So, hindi mo na dadagdagan to kasi balance na yung kina boron atoms tsaka oxygen atoms. Dito ka na lang magdadagdag. Okay, so we need ilang molecules kaya ng hydrogen gas to compensate for that 18. Meron ka na 6. So, minus na lang natin. 18 minus 6. So, kailangan natin ng 12. So, para ma-achieve natin yung kulang na 12, dadagdagan natin to ng 6. So, 6 yung coefficient kasi 6 times 2 is 12. Now, meron ka ng 12 dito plus yung kanina na, I mean, kulang pa rin pala. Wait lang, medyo nalito dun ako. tama na siya na 2. Pero dito, tama na merong 6. Ah, tama. 6. So, 12 plus 6 is 18. Bawasan natin, tanggalin natin yung mga previous kong ano, notes. So, again, yung 6 na to, nanggaling siya dito sa hydrogen ng boric acid. So, tatlong atoms. Tapos, sa bawat isang molecule, tatlong atoms, dalawang molecule yung meron tayo. So, 2 times 3 is 6. Then, kada isang molecule ng hydrogen gas, may dalawang hydrogen atom. So, kapag 6 yung nilagay natin ng coefficient, ibig sabihin, 6 na molecule ng hydrogen yung meron tayo. So, 6 times 2 is 12. 12 plus 6 is 18. So, 18 na yung hydrogen sa right side or sa product side. Then, 18 na din yung hydrogen sa reactant side. So, balance na yung equation. Lalagay na lang natin dito yung 1 as placeholder. Now, to answer the question, which set of ordered coefficients correctly balances the following equation? So, 1, 6, 2, 6. The correct answer is letter D. Okay? So, kapag mga gantong klase ng question, alam ko na medyo nakakalito siya. Ako din, nakita niyo ako na nalito kanina. Let's start with the element na medyo mababa yung number or the element that appears less frequently. So like boron here, mababa lang yung number ni boron and hindi masyado malaki yung number niya. So unahin muna natin yung ganong klase ng element sa equation. Then you move on to the second one na medyo mababa yung number na kailangan. And then, katulad ng ginawa natin dito, hinuli natin si hydrogen. Kasi si hydrogen, medyo malaki yung number ng molecules na kailangan niya. So, isa yun sa mga bagay na tingin ko pwede ko i-share sa inyo as a tip. Because this kind of approach makes, balancing complex reactions much easier. Pero kung kayo may sarili kayong technique, it's also fine. You can share it with us, with me, or your classmates. Kung tingin nyo mas madali yung technique nyo, I'm open for suggestions. But ayun nga, ang sagot natin, or yung sagot ko for this question is letter D. So now, let's try a combustion reaction naman. So kapag sinabi natin combustion reaction, combination to ng hydrocarbons with oxygen. And ang napoproduce nito ay carbon dioxide and water. Yung mga combustion reaction kasi, they are very common na ginagamit sa mga exams. Kaya ito rin yung ginamit ko na example sa inyo. So here we have a hydrocarbon in the form of propane. So ito si propane. Propane reacts with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide and water. How can we balance this reaction? So sisimulan ko kay carbon. So yung carbon natin sa left side, meron tayong tatlo. Yung carbon natin on the right side, isa lang. So, para mabalance silang dalawa, maglalagay ako ng tatlo dito. So, ngayon, yung carbon dito sa right side, tatlo na siya. Ayan. Next, na ibabalance ko siguro yung hydrogen atom. So, dito meron tayong 8 na atom from this molecule kay propane. So, 8. Then, dito meron tayong dalawa. dalawang atom per water molecule. So, para mabalance sila, since dalawa lang to, ito 8. Lalagyan ko to ng 4. So, now, we have 4 molecules of water and then we'll have 2 times 4, 8. 8 atoms ng hydrogen. So, meron na tayong carbon na equal or same on on both sides of the equation. Then, meron tayong hydrogen na 8 sila parehas. We are now left with oxygen. So, on the left side of the equation, meron tayong dalawang oxygen sa isang dioxide molecule. Meron tayong tatlong carbon dioxide molecules. So, 2 times 3, 6. Dito naman sa water, meron tayong isang oxygen molecule sa bawat meron tayong isang oxygen atom sa bawat isang water molecule. So, 4 times 1, you have 4. So, 10 yung kailangan. Dito naman, meron tayong dalawang oxygen atom sa isang oxygen gas na molecule. So, oxygen, tas 2. So, kailangan natin ng 5 na coefficient para maging 10 or para masatisfy yung chemical reaction because 5 times 2 will get 10. So, meron ka ng 10 oxygen dito sa left, meron ka na ding 10 na oxygen dito sa right. So, balance na ba yung chemical reaction natin? Maglalagay lang tayong placeholder dito na 1. So, we have 3 carbons on left and right side. Then, 8 na hydrogen, 8. Then, 10 na oxygen, 10 din dito sa right. So, the correct set of coefficients is 1, 5, 3, 4. And that is letter C. So, the correct answer is letter C. So, ngayon na medyo may practice na tayo when it comes to balancing chemical reactions. Specifically, itong example na to, combustion of hydrocarbons. Makikita natin yung complete equation. And yung balance equation na to, makikita naman natin na on both sides, well accounted for yung bawat atoms para mag-proceed yung chemical reaction na to. So this balance equation tells us the exact mole ratios between the reactants and the products. Now, balancing isn't just, making the equation look neat, mukhang malinis, mukhang balance. It's actually the foundation for stoichiometry. So, yun naman, let me just erase all this. So, stoichiometry is where we use yung mga coefficients na nilagay natin dito kanina to calculate how much of one substance react with another. And yung mga coefficients na yon, it represents the mole ratios which allows us to solve problems regarding chemical reactions. Siyempre, papracticean din natin yung mga ganong klase ng equation or question. So here's a sample question that will let us apply yung mole ratio directly from the coefficients that we just balanced. So gagamitin pa rin natin yung reaction ni propane and ni oxygen. How many moles of oxygen are required if you burn 2 mole of propane according to the equation below? So to answer this, we need to understand the concept of moles. So 1 mole represents 6.022 multiplied by 10 raised to 23rd power particles. So, pag sinabi nating particles, it can be atoms, molecules, or ions. So, para siyang counting unit na tinatawag. It's kind of similar on how we use the word dozen. 'Di ba kapag sinabi natin na isang dosena, alam agad natin na 12 pieces yon, no matter the substance we are talking about. So, mole concept is important because it allows us to connect the microscopic world of atoms to measurable amounts like, grams, liters. So, sa mga chemical equations, yung mga coefficients na binabalance natin in chemical reactions, sila yung nagre-represent na mole ratios. So, hindi lang siya basta molecule na count. So, sa kanina na equation natin, yung 5 na nilagay natin sa harap ng oxygen gas, it tells us that 1 mole of propane reacts with 5 moles of oxygen. So that's the mole concept. So now let's try to solve our problem. This equation, ito yung sinolve natin kanina, it tells us na yung mole ratio natin, there's 1 mole of propane that will react with 5 moles of oxygen. So, kung meron tayong 2 moles ng propane, ilan kaya yung moles ng oxygen na kailangan natin? So, pwede natin siyang gawin. Sulat natin yung hinahanap or yung given pala. So, here we have, ayan, 2 moles of propane. Yan yung given natin. Ayan. Then, isulat natin yung ratio, yung mole ratio. 'Di ba ang hinahanap ay moles ng oxygen. Ito siya. So, sabi, kada 5 mole ng oxygen, nakaka-consume ng 1 mole ng propane. Okay? So, ito yung tinatawag natin na mole ratio. Kada 5 mole ng oxygen, meron tayong 1 mole ng propane. So, ika-cancel natin yung unit ni propane kasi hindi naman siya hinahanap natin and nasa opposite side sila ng um, analysis. So, meron na lang tayo natitirang unit ng oxygen. Sulat na natin. So, M das 5 divided by 1, 5 pa rin siya and 2 times 5 is 10. So, 10 moles of oxygen yung kailangan para makapag-burn ng 2 mole of propane. So, the answer here is letter A. Okay? So, remember na yung mga subscripts, ayan, part sila ng formula, hindi mole ratio. Yung mga coefficients lang, yung part ng mole ratios. And always check na balance yung chemical reaction bago nyo kunin yung mole ratios. Kasi may mga questions minsan na hindi nila ibibigay yung balance na chemical reaction. So, you need to be wary of that. Always use the coefficients from balance equations. And pwede nyong gamitin yung ganitong klase ng pagsagot or solution. Ano lang siya, simple proportion method. And it kind of works for any stoichiometry problem naman, whether you're calculating for reactants needed o kaya mga products na nabuo. Pero kung meron kayong mas madaling way or tingin nyo medyo complicated yung technique na nai-present sa inyo, you are free to, you know, make or study for another technique to answer this kind of question naman. So let's try to answer another practice question. Oxygen gas exists as a diatomic molecule. Ibig sabihin, dalawang atoms per molecule para maging stable yung molecule. A cylinder contains 64 grams of oxygen gas. How many moles of oxygen are in the cylinder? So, given yung atomic mass, ibig sabihin, sa isang sa isang oxygen atom, meron kang 16 na atomic mass unit. So, ang hinahanap dito, moles ng oxygen. Gaano karaming oxygen yung nasa cylinder? Pero kung mapapansin natin, hindi natin kailangan ng balance na chemical reaction dito. Pero ang binigay sa atin na clue ay in grams. 64 grams ng oxygen gas. So, to convert yung mass to moles, we need to use a formula. So, yung formula for mass to moles ay N is equals to M over M. So, yung small m, ito yung given na mass. Ayan siya. Siya si 64. Lagay natin. 64 grams. And then, itong big M na to, ito yung tinatawag na molar mass. Si N, siya yung magre-represent sa number of moles. So, for molar mass, i-multiply lang natin yung given atomic mass dun sa molecule. So, sabi dito, sa isang atom ng oxygen, it weighs 16. Kailangan natin ng dalawang oxygen atom dito kasi it exists as a diatomic molecule, meaning two oxygen atoms are chemically bonded together. So, times 2 lang natin. So, 16 times 2 is 32. So, ayan yung molar mass natin. Now, isa-substitute lang natin sila dito sa formula na ito. So, N is equals to 64 grams over 32 grams per mole. So, ika-cancel out na natin yung unit ng grams because sa opposite side sila. Then, 64 divided by 32 is 2. Yung unit natin, moles. So, the correct answer here is 2 moles, which is letter B. So, kailangan, there's 2 moles of oxygen gas in the cylinder. Isa sa mga common mistakes sa mga ganitong klase ng question, yung iba, dinidivide agad nila yung given na mass sa atomic mass. Pero tatandaan natin or we should look out for diatomic gases katulad ng oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. So they exist as diatomic molecule kasi when they are chemically bonded together, mas stable yung mga molecule kapag ganun. So, syempre, as diatomic molecules, ito times 2 natin sila dun sa given. na atomic mass. Kasi yung given na atomic mass, pang isang atom lang yung na-account niyan. So now, moving on beyond numbers, equations also reveal patterns in how substances react. And recognizing these patterns is essential for exams, of course, because maraming questions yung nakikita ko sa mga online na review materials. So, ibig sabihin, yun yung nakikita ng mga estudyante karaniwan na lumalabas sa mga natitake nila na entrance exams. Yung mga questions din doon, minsan, they will ask you to classify reactions into types. And so we will try to learn about the five major types of chemical reaction. Una muna dito, syempre, yung synthesis reaction or yung combination reaction. So, this is when two or more substances combine to form a single product. So, yung common or yung general form niya is A plus B. Ang magiging product is AB. Mga common examples nito, hydrogen gas plus the oxygen molecule. So, makakabuka ng water. Pwede din naman na magnesium plus oxygen. So, meron kang magnesium oxide. Basta may makita kayo na dalawang substance sa reactant side, tapos isang product lang yung mabubuo. It's synthesis or combination reaction. Tatandaan ulit natin, multiple reactants, madaming reactants sa left side, then one product lang sa right side, it's synthesis. Next, we have decomposition. Opposite siya ng synthesis because decomposition reactions involve a single compound breaking down into two or more simpler substances. So, very common sa mga decomposition reaction, um, yung mga energy in the form of heat, light, or electricity, kailangan sila para mabuo or para maipagpatuloy yung decomposition reaction. And yung general form niya is A, B, or ito yung singular na compound, magbe-break down siya into A and B. So, for example nito ay yung um, mercury oxide. So, you have HGO, magbe-breakdown siya into mercury and oxygen gas. So, mangyayari tong reaction na to, yung breakdown ng mercury oxide, kapag nag-apply ka na heat. So, kapag ininitan mo yung mercury oxide, ang matitira or yung magiging product ay mercury and oxygen gas. So, isa sa mga clue para malaman agad natin kung decomposition reaction siya kapag may nabanggit na heat or electricity na involved when breaking down yung compound na given. Next, we have single replacement. So, sa mga ganitong klase na reactions, there's one element, ito pala, one element replaces another in a compound. So, kung makikita nyo parang um, we have here A plus BC. Tapos, after the reaction, si A, ang kapartner na niya or yung kasama na niya sa molecule ay si C and mahihiwalay si B. Ayan. So, yung mga reactions na to or yung mga single displacement or replacement reactions, they often occur between a metal and ionic compound. Okay, metal and ionic compounds sa isang solution. So, for example, we have here zinc, say zinc plus hydrochloric acid, so HCl. So, kapag pinagsama natin silang lalabas sa isang reaction, ang mabubuo ay zinc chloride. So, ito yung zinc chloride. Then, madidissociate si hydrogen gas. Ayan. Okay, so ito yung example ng single displacement or replacement reaction. Si metal and si halogen, parang swap lang sila ng position or ng place sa chemical reaction. Next, we have double replacement or displacement reactions. It involve the exchange of ions between two compounds. So, meron kang isang compound dito, isang compound. Then, kung makikita nyo, parang nag-exchange partner sila, which results to the formation of two new compounds. And yung mga reactions na to sa double replacement, they often produce precipitate gas and water. So, example nito, kapag nag-react sino ba? Si silver nitrate, NO3, and si sodium chloride. Ayan. So, meron kang silver nitrate and sodium chloride sa reactant. So, ang mapoproduce nito ay silver chloride. Ang itsura nito, puting parang pulbos, ganun. White precipitate yung itsura niya, ni silver chloride. And then, meron tayong sodium nitrate. Ito siya. Sodium nitrate, it will remain dissolved sa solution. Pero may makikita tayong white precipitate, yun si silver chloride. So, sa mga double replacement reactions, aside from yung parang exchange of partners nila, you also have to watch out for ionic compounds na kapag nilagay sa aqueous solution, nag-exchange sila ng partners. Next, we have combustion reaction. So, combustion always occur when a carbon-containing compound or yung parang fuel, it reacts with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy in the form of heat or flame, ganun. Yung mga reactions na to, these are highly exothermic. Ibig sabihin, these are chemical reactions that release heat energy into the surroundings. So, yung general form niya, meron kang hydrocarbon, meaning yung compound, it contains only carbon and hydrogen. Then, it reacts with oxygen. Example nito, yung kanina, sa propane. So, we have propane reacting with oxygen. So, magpaproduce siya ng carbon dioxide and water. So, clue para malaman natin kung combustion reaction yung na-present sa atin or yung given sa exam is that yung mga hydrocarbons o yung mga organic compounds, they always burn in reaction with oxygen. Okay? So, remember nyo na lang na kapag may nakita kayong um, organic substance, you know, actually specific pala to sa hydrocarbon. So, basta yung carbon, yung organic substance nyo, basta meron siyang carbon and hydrogen, then nag-react siya sa oxygen, combustion reaction yun agad. Hindi nyo na kailangang isipin pa yung ibang types of chemical reaction. Because ang magiging product lang talaga nilang dalawa ay carbon dioxide and water. And of course, some type of energy. So let's apply yung natutunan natin in our previous slide into a practice question. So ammonia or NH3 is a vital industrial chemical produced by the Haber process, where nitrogen gas and hydrogen gas are combined under high pressure and temperature. The equation is represented as this chemical reaction. This reaction is an example of blank. So, on the left side, we have here two separate reactants. Meron tayong nitrogen gas and hydrogen gas. And on the right, when they combine to form a single product, ito yung ammonia. And this matches the exact definition of synthesis reaction. Meron kang multiple reactants forming one product. Okay? Medyo hindi siya confusing, right? Kasi basta makita natin na maraming reactants tapos isa lang yung product, synthesis reaction siya. Pero may iba kasi na nalilito with double displacement. So remember na lang na kapag synthesis reaction, one product, kapag double displacement, two new compounds. Okay? Other people also think na just because gases are involved, combustion reaction na siya, which is wrong because combustion always requires oxygen as the reactant. And kung makikita naman natin sa chemical equation, walang oxygen na present. So it's synthesis reaction. So moving on, we have another important concept in chemistry, which is solubility. And solubility is the maximum amount of a substance, meaning yung solute, that can dissolve in another substance, which is the solvent, at a specific temperature and pressure. So, yung solute na sinasabi natin, it is the one that gets dissolved. So, for example, yung asin or yung salt, table salt. And the solvent does the dissolving. So, solvent like water. Kaya nga, di ba, madalas nating naririnig na water is often called the universal solvent. So, para mas matandaan natin kung ano yung solute or yung solvent, kapag solute, para siyang asin or sugar, then sila yung nade-dissolve sa solvent katulad ng water. So, when it comes to solubility, we can think of it like a crowded room na there's only a certain number of people that you can fit inside the room before it's completely packed, right? And when a solution holds the maximum amount of solute possible, we call it saturated. However, kapag may capacity pa yung solution to hold more solute, it's unsaturated. So we have saturated and unsaturated solution. Now, there are four main factors that can influence solubility. We have here temperature, pressure, surface area, and polarity. And let's try to break one of each down. Now, yung epekto ni temperature sa solubility, kapag mas mataas yung temperature, mas nag increase yung solubility ng solid sa liquid. So it's like dissolving sugar in let's say coffee. Ganon. So si coffee yung parang solvent mo. So bakit kaya ganon? Kapag tinaas natin yung temperature, mas madidissolve yung solid na solute particles. It's because kapag tinaasan natin yung temperature ng solution, yung mga particles sa loob ng solution, they gain kinetic energy. So, the solvent molecules, they move faster and they break apart yung solid particles more effectively. Okay? Kung titingnan nyo, if you try to dissolve sugar between hot coffee and iced coffee. Hindi ba mas madaling ma-dissolve yung sugar sa hot coffee kasi sa iced coffee? 'Di ba? However, yung rule na to, reverse siya when it comes to gases. Kapag yung gas mo ay solute, bumababa yung solubility ng gas kapag tumataas yung temperature. Okay? When you heat up kasi yung mga gas, it gives the molecules enough energy to escape the liquid and fly away into the air. Okay? Example nito, yung reverse ng rule na to is that, for example, iniwan nyo yung soda bottle nyo sa labas ng ref, mainit yung araw. Like, you have a very hot summer day. Tas iniwan nyo yung soda bottle nyo sa labas ng ref. 'Di ba kapag binuksan nyo yun, parang hindi na siya fizzy. Wala ka ng parang maramdaman na gas doon. It goes flat yung taste niya. It's because iniwan mo siya sa mataas na temperature na environment. And so, mas bumaba yung solubility ng carbon dioxide gas doon sa liquid or doon sa liquid part ng soda. So, since bumaba yung solubility ng carbon dioxide gas, parang na-push out siya dun sa liquid part ng soda. Okay? Again, when it comes to solid particles na i-dissolve sa liquid na solvent, pag mas mataas yung temperature, mas maraming solute particles or solid particles yung made-dissolve sa liquid. Kapag naman sa gas, kapag mas mataas yung temperature, bababa yung solubility ng gas. It's because kapag ininitan mo yung gas molecules, magkakaroon siya ng enough energy to escape yung liquid solvent or yung liquid kung saan mo siya nilagay. And kapag nag-escape siya sa liquid, syempre mapupunta na siya sa surrounding environment or sa air, ganon. Next, we have pressure. So, pressure mainly affects gases na nade-dissolve sa liquid. Changing yung pressure on a solid or a liquid solute, wala masyadong effect sa solubility. Kaya, pressure mainly affects gases. Kaya hindi masyado naapektuhan yung solid and yung liquid na solute. It's because yung mga particles ng solid and ng liquid, they are tightly packed together na wala masyadong effect sa solubility kung taasan or babaan mo yung pressure. Pero for gases, increasing the pressure forces more gas molecules into the solution. Gamitin ulit natin ang example, yung mga soda drinks. 'Di ba? Yung mga soda, um, pinapak sila or binobote sila under high pressure sa mga factory to keep the carbon dioxide dissolve in the liquid part. So the moment that you twist open the cap or yung takip ng soda bottle, you hear that familiar fizzing or parang hiss. Paano ko ba isa-sounds like yun? Hindi ako, marunong. But you get it, right? Uminom tayo lahat ng soda. Yung ingay na yon na naririnig natin when you open the cap, it's the sudden release of pressure. Okay? It's because the pressure drops the moment you open the soda bottle. And so, yung solubility ng gas, bumababa din instantly. So, yung carbon dioxide na meron, yung soda drink mo, it starts to escape. And nakikita natin siya in real time as those bubbles. Yung mga bubbles na nakikita natin when we open a bottle of soda. That's the carbon dioxide. Next, we have surface area. So breaking solids into smaller pieces increases yung dissolving rate. Okay, so dissolving rate, yun yung rate at which a solute dissolves. Okay? Now, question here, does changing the surface area alter the amount of solute that can dissolve? So the answer to that is no. Yung surface area, it does not change the solubility capacity of a substance. However, it changes the rate of dissolution or how fast that substance dissolves. So for example, you have let's say parang granulated sugar, 'di ba? Yung mga granulated sugar, yan, pira-piraso silang maliliit. It dissolves faster than a sugar cube. Ayan. Compare nyo sa sugar cube, 'di ba? For example, you have 10 grams of granulated sugar and then you have 10 grams of sugar cubes. So, parehas yung sorry, parehas yung mass nila. So, the mass might be identical, but granulated sugar has massive increase in surface area kasi syempre maliliit lang silang peraso. Mas marami siyang surface area na exposed dun sa liquid kesa dito sa sugar cube na anim lang na sides yung exposed dun sa liquid. Now, pwede nyo sabihin na pwede namang haluin. Well, yes, stirring also increases contact and it speeds up dissolving the solute in the solvent. Now, you might ask you might find questions that ask, which of the following will increase the amount of salt that can dissolve in 100 ml of water? Minsan, may option doon na crushing. Ika-crush yung solid solute. Now, crushing yung object or yung substance is the wrong answer kasi yung pag-crush mo ng substance, it only affects the speed or the rate in which you can dissolve particles faster. However, to increase the total amount that can be dissolved in a certain number or amount of solvent, you would need to change the temperature. Okay? So again, kapag surface area, mas napapabilis lang niya yung pag-dissolve ng mga solid particles. Next, we have polarity. So polarity determines which solutes dissolve in which solvents. It means na yung mga substances na may similar chemical structures and electrical charges, they will dissolve with one another. For example, polar molecules have an even distribution of electrical charges, meaning kapag polar molecule, meron siyang, bakit ang pangit? So, meron siyang distinct na positive and negative side. Bakit ganun yung negative? Ayan. So, polar molecules have an even distribution of electrical charges. Meron siyang distinct na positive and negative side. Kapag naman non-polar molecules, katulad ng oil, yung oil na ginagamit natin for cooking, meron siyang even distribution of charge. So, non-polar molecule yung oil. Now, polar molecules or solutes like salt will dissolve in polar solvents. Polar solvents like water. Kaya nadidissolve natin yung mga asin sa tubig? It's because polar molecules have charges. So, ibig sabihin, they act like, tiny magnets, and they attract other polar molecules and even ionic compounds into the solution. Now, non-polar solutes dissolve or will dissolve in non-polar solvents. So, for example, yung oil, it will get dissolved sa hexane kasi hexane is a non-polar solvent. Kaya rin, hindi natin pwede ma-mix yung oil and yung water. It's because of their polar difference. So sa mga entrance exam, they will often give you a list of chemical compounds. Then they will ask you which one is the most soluble in a specific solvent. Okay? Yung mga common na polar solutes or yung mga usually soluble sila sa tubig, katulad ng salts or yun nga yung sodium chloride, sugar, na-dissolve din siya sa water. Acetone, na-dissolve din siya sa sugar, sa water. Even ethanol, alcohol siya, and potassium nitrate. So, yun yung mga usual na polar solute na na-dissolve sa water. Now, yung mga usual naman na non-polar solute, pero pwede silang ma-dissolve sa mga non-polar solvents like hexane. Yun yung mga oil or mga triglycerides, um, waxes, iodine, yung ginamit natin na example in the previous video, yung naphthalene, pwede din siyang ma-dissolve sa mga non-polar solvents. So we've just learned about temperature, pressure, surface area, and polarity as the main factors affecting solubility. Now let's try to test this understanding with a practice question. So a student is working with a saturated solution of potassium nitrate or KNO3. If the student vigorously stirrs the solution for 10 minutes at a constant temperature, what will be the effect on the solubility of potassium nitrate? So una, si solution, it was described as a saturated solution. It means it already contains the maximum amount of solute that can dissolve at that given temperature. Now, stirring increases the rate of dissolving the solute by exposing more solute particles to the solvent. Pero hindi no nababago yung maximum capacity ni solvent to dissolve more solute. And since yung temperature natin constant, it means na yung solubility limit ni potassium nitrate, it remains the same. So therefore, yung pag-stir na solution, it will not increase or decrease the solubility. It will only speeds up how fast the solution can be dissolved in the solvent. So since that's the case, the correct answer here is letter C. The solubility will remain unchanged. So, common mistake when tackling questions like this is that you might think na stirring adds energy to increase solubility, but remember, only temperature changes solubility, not stirring. Another confusing concept here is that solubility with dissolving rate. So stirring affects the rate of the solution, not the maximum amount that can be dissolved. Okay. Another practice question regarding solubility. Which of the following statements regarding solubility of ionic compounds is true. Now, to help us answer this question, we can regard with this chart. So, solubility rules are a set of guidelines that can help us predict whether an ionic compound will dissolve in water. And these are the most important ones to remember. So, palaging soluble si group 1 cations. Pati si ammonium, yung mga nitrates, perchlorates, and even acetates. Always soluble sila. Soluble din yung mga halides like chlorides, bromides, and iodides, except with silver, lead, and mercury. So, ibig sabihin, um, soluble sila sa ibang mga solvents, except kapag nagko-contain ng mga ganitong molecule yung pinaghaluan sa kanila. Sulfates are also soluble except with calcium, strontium, barium, and lead. Now, yung mga insoluble naman, katulad ng mga carbonates, sulfides, ay, unahin pala natin to. So, generally, insoluble silang lahat. Except kapag yung si sulfide and si carbonates, natapatan nila sina group 1 cations and ammonium. Okay, so whenever you see a question regarding solubility, um, para mas madali nating matandaan yung chart na to, always recall na yung sa always soluble na list ay itong sina group 1, ammonium, nitrates, and acetates. Ayun. Kasi these are guaranteed soluble and often form the basis of quick exam answers. So that's your solubility rules. Let's try to answer this question now. Let's try to analyze the options muna by using the solubility rules. So for option A, most silver salts, sabihin, salts that contains the silver compound, they are actually insoluble. So, insoluble siya. So, silver chloride, silver bromide, silver iodide, they are examples of insoluble salts. So, false na agad yung letter A. Option B, all nitrates and acetates are soluble in water. Kapag tinignan natin yung previous na example, rules regarding solubility. So, tama naman siya. Walang exceptions na nakalagay or nakatapat sa kanya. So, it's the statement that is true. Now, hydroxides are insoluble. Base nga dun sa nakita nating solubility rule. So, except with those of group 1 cations like sodium hydroxide and potassium hydroxide. And siguro sa ibang group 2 hydroxides then like barium hydroxide, this statement is false. Okay? So again, except for group 1 cations and some group 2 na hydroxides, hydroxides are generally insoluble. What makes option D false naman is that nilagay niya dito, carbonates are soluble daw in water. Now, most carbonates are insoluble. Okay, again, with the exception of those from group 1 cations and ammonium. So, this is also false. So, the correct answer for this is letter B. All nitrates and acetates are soluble in water. So we've explored solubility rules and we've learned how to predict whether ionic compounds dissolve in water. Now let's move to another concept, a one that will most likely turn up sa mga exams, yung concept ng acids and bases. Now, yung mga substances kasi na yun, they can be found everywhere. In the food we eat, in the medicines that we take, even in household cleaners, makikita natin yung acids and bases. Now, milk of magnesia is a magnesium hydroxide. So kapag sinabi natin hydroxide, it's a base. Okay? And bases have a pH greater than 7. And they also turn red litmus paper into blue litmus paper. So the answer here is letter C. Milk of magnesia has a pH greater than 7 and will turn the red litmus paper into blue. Now, this question is a great example kasi pwede natin tong magamit to define the properties of acids and bases. We know na yung mga acids, they have a pH of less than 7 and they taste sour and they turn the blue litmus paper into red. And yun nga, nabanggit natin kanina, yung mga base, they have pH greater than 7 and will turn red litmus paper into blue. And most bases, medyo they have a slippery or soapy na taste. Now, understanding those properties is essential for both everyday life and, in taking exams. So let's try to discuss more about them. So, based sa theory ni Arrhenius, nagbigay siya na, based sa definition doon, yung mga acids, they are ionic compounds daw na that can dissociate in water to produce hydrogen ions or yung mga H plus na yan. Ayan. While bases, according to the Arrhenius definition, these are ionic compounds that dissociate in water to produce hydroxide ions naman. Ayan. But according to the Bronsted-Lowry definition, acids are proton donors or compounds that can donate hydrogen ions, while bases are proton acceptors or compounds that accept yung mga yung mga hydrogen ions daw. So that's just, two theories that explains acids and bases, yung Arrhenius and Bronsted-Lowry na theories. Now, acids exhibit characteristic properties due to their ability to increase the concentration of hydrogen ions in the solution. Okay, so kapag acids, nag-increase sila ng hydrogen ions sa solution and they taste sour. So like yung mga vinegar, mataas yung acidity niya. It also turns blue litmus paper into red and they react with many metals to produce hydrogen gas. So yung mga common acid na ma-encounter natin sa mga exams and even in everyday life, hydrochloric acid. So makikita natin to sa stomach acid natin. And may mga substances din na ginagamit sa industry na merong hydrochloric acid. Meron ding sulfuric acid, yung ginagamit sa mga batteries and manufacturing, and acetic acid. So si acetic acid naman, it's the type of acid that is responsible for the sour taste of vinegar. On the other hand, we have bases, which are substances that increase the concentration of hydroxide ions in the solution. And meron din siya na distinct physical and chemical properties like may bitter taste siya. yung mga bases, they also have soapy taste or feeling, ganun. Parang nakatikim na ba kayo ng baking soda? So, baking soda is a base substance and it also turns red litmus paper into blue. Yung mga common bases na na-encounter natin, like sodium hydroxide. So, ginagamit siya sa mga cleaning products. We also have potassium hydroxide. Ginagamit naman siya sa soap manufacturing. And also, sodium bicarbonate, yung makikita sa baking soda, and antacids. Now, acids and bases are electrolytes. Electrolytes silang dalawa because they dissociate into ions sa mga aqueous solution, thus allowing the solution to conduct electricity. Now, strong acids and bases are strong electrolytes, while weak acids and weak bases are weak electrolytes. Now, how do we measure acidity and basicity? So, we use the pH scale to quantify whether the solution is basic or acid. Kapag strongly acidic, meron siyang pH 1. Kapag weakly acidic, medyo mahinang acid, meron siyang pH na 4 to 5. Kapag sinabi naman natin na strong basic, meron siya na pH na 14. And kapag weakly basic, it's pH 9 or 10. So as we reach the end of this lecture, I think we've built a strong foundation naman in chemistry concepts that are essential for entrance exams and even in real world applications. I know that chemistry is not just, passing the exams. It's also about understanding the world around us. Alam ko na medyo sa inyo, you can feel na it's kind of challenging na pag-aralan yung chemistry, but every concept here is like a puzzle piece. Now, when you put them together, the bigger picture, I know, will become clear. So, keep practicing, keep questioning, and remember na yung test-taking confidence, it comes from preparation. Now, I want to thank you for joining me in this lecture series. I hope na yung mga lessons na to, it will not only prepare you for your exams, but also to inspire you to see chemistry as a way of understanding the world around us. So, keep learning and believe in your ability to succeed. Ayun lang. Thank you!